Jesus taught reincarnation and meditation. The more we read the Emerald Tablets, we realize readily that the connection between Thoth and Jesus is there. Where does the term matrix come from? The term matrix comes from the Bible. The flight into Egypt is a biblical event described in Matthew 2:13 through 23. The Magi learned that King Herod intended to murder the infants within that area, and soon after, Joseph saw an angel in a dream which told him to flee to Egypt with Mary and his infant son, Jesus, also known as the accurate name, Yeshua. I'm using Jesus in the book because it relates to people's minds a little bit easier, but we know it's actually Yeshua. This is a very important statement here because we know that in Matthew, all of a sudden, Jesus disappears from the Gospels at the age of 12. Where does he go? We know that he goes to Egypt because the Bible says he did. And guess what we find in Egypt? We find that Jesus was actually there. Not only was he there, but we know that the house he lived in still stands. It's a shrine now in Coptic Cairo. This person, this entity, really did exist in the physical form. It wasn't just some kind of thought thing. It wasn't that, no, it was real. This was a real person. For those of you who were wondering, this was a real person that existed with flesh and blood. He put on his pants one leg at a time, just like we did. Pretty interesting. Now, he was a virgin birth. How do we know about the time he spent in Egypt? Well, there's this book called The Gospel of the Holy 12. And I have these Gospels as well. They're very little known, hard to find gospel, the Gospel of the Holy 12. What's interesting is these scriptures were omitted from the Bible. These verses, they were left out. It tells you of Jesus where he was and where he went when he disappeared from the biblical text at the age of 12 to 32. He went to Egypt to learn what? The Egyptian mysteries. From who? Who was the original creator of the mystery schools? Thoth, the Atlantean priest king. This could be why, when you see as I go through this, his words are extremely similar to those words of Thoth written in what? In the Emerald Tablets, the same words that are recorded by him as him speaking in the New Testament of the Bible. Pretty interesting. He then leaves out of Egypt as he gets a little older, and he goes up into Tibet. What does he go to Tibet to do? He goes to learn Reiki healing and Qigong healing with his hands and his body, and how to move energy throughout the body, which is confirmed by the Dalai Lama. In modern times, the newest Dalai Lama has confirmed this. And then he heads down into India to learn the mystic arts and teaching reincarnation all the way back down into Egypt. Then at the age of 32, the Bible picks up again and says, I call my son out of Egypt. And then he turns up in Jerusalem riding in the back of a donkey, right? Not everybody knows the story because not everybody is studied like they're supposed to. The Great Pyramid of Egypt has been and still is a temple of initiation into the mysteries. Gnostic texts, such as the first Apocalypse of James, which you probably never heard of, were likely banned because of their different understanding of Jesus' importance. They understood Jesus much more in terms of being a revealer of human wisdom, explains Brent Landau, a religious studies lecturer at the University of Texas at Austin, who presented the findings at the Society of Biblical Literature annual meeting in Boston, November 2017. The first Apocalypse of James manuscript is from the Nag Hammadi Library at Oxford University. These are the living quarters, the former living quarters of Jesus, aka Yeshua. These images and photos were taken by me on my own camera. Many believe the Emerald Tablets of Thoth are the source of material for the teachings of Jesus in the New Testament. If you read the Apocrypha text, you will find out that Jesus was a student of the Egyptian mysteries and he taught reincarnation and meditation. Yes, Jesus taught reincarnation and meditation. You have to read the Apocrypha text. If you read the Apocrypha text, you'll find out that Jesus was a student of the Egyptian mysteries. He taught reincarnation and meditation. I know this to be true because on my last trip to Cairo, that's me, I visited the Coptic church where Jesus and his mother lived while there. They lived under the church in the basement. The Council of Nicaea in 325 AD omitted that information from the canonized Bible. I have included photos that I took in May 2014 of the living place of Jesus and his mother in Egypt, which you just saw those photos. It is still kept as a memorial until now. The biblical story of the birth of Jesus is about the sun and planetary alignments. The real person named Yeshua, aka Jesus, is actually Thoth, or the son of Thoth. Jesus' grandmother, Mary's mother, is also a virgin birth. They didn't teach you that in Bible study, did they? You discover this when you do deeper research. And so why would the mother of Mary be a virgin birth? It seems as if someone was establishing a particular bloodline. We know that bloodline to be the Merovingian bloodline, the bloodline of Christ. That bloodline is still walking the planet till this very day. And I'll get to that in a second. Now, when you take a woman and you insert an egg into her womb at the right time, it's called creating a zygote and then doing in vitro fertilization. You can then create a baby growing in that womb with no sexual intercourse. This is not the first time it's happened in ancient texts. There's an ancient text that goes even further back in Sumeria, where Isis takes an egg out of a woman, puts the egg, adds some genetic material to it, puts the egg in her own womb, takes it to term for 10 months and gives birth to Adamu, which means first man. In some cases, they call him Adapa, but it's Adamu or Adapa, doesn't matter. It both means first man. This is in vitro fertilization happening in ancient tablets. Why would they make this stuff up if it didn't really happen? At that time, Isis created the first Adam, not the first human. There were already people here, according to the tablets. But the most perfected version of a Homo sapiens sapien came out of her womb, which starts the generations of Isis, the Genesis, the Genesis. Many people believe that the Emerald Tablets of Thoth are the source material for the teachings of Jesus in the New Testament. If you read the Apocrypha text, you will discover that Jesus was a student of the Egyptian mysteries and he taught reincarnation and meditation. And so when you go in here, it says, I have included photos, which I showed you before. There's more photos in the book. You can check it out in my book. But here's where it gets really important. In this chapter, I will establish the true source of the teachings of Jesus. It appears that most of his biblical teachings and statements come directly from the Emerald Tablets. This also points to the possibility that Jesus may be Thoth or the son of Thoth. Right here, you see this labyrinth. This image that you're looking at right here before I get into the text, this was discovered underneath the sands at Giza, where the Great Pyramid is located. The lost labyrinth of Egypt is without a doubt one of those incredible ancient sites that are a lost jewel in today's history. These are the halls of Amenti located underneath the Great Pyramid. The same halls of Amenti that Thoth says in the Emerald Tablets that he built underneath the Great Pyramid. Well, they were discovered a few years ago. They're there. Thoth says, not as the little men of the present age did, the mighty ones of Atlantis live and die, but rather from eon to eon did they renew their life in the halls of Amenti, where the river of life flows eternally onward. Now, the halls of Amenti is a place where, according to Thoth, he would have these bodies inside of these rejuvenation chambers, and he would transfer his consciousness into new bodies so he can walk amongst men, but unlike a man. Jesus says in the New Testament, the book of John 7:38, he that believes in me, out of his being shall flow the river of living water. Halls of Amenti, where the river of life flows eternally. Same exact statement. It's the same exact statement. There's no difference there. Not one difference. 100 times 10 have I descended in the dark way that led to light. And as many times as I have ascended from the darkness into the light, my strength and power have been renewed. Now for a time I descend, and the men of Chem shall know me no more. Understand here that the men of Chem refers to the people of Egypt, because Kemet is ancient Egypt. Yet notice that we get our word alchemy from this Egyptian name. There are other interesting statements made by the writer Thoth. He says that he descended into the halls of Amenti, where there are regeneration chambers. Certainly, we can understand the concept of cellular regeneration. He says he has spent a total of 10,000 years, because he says he's done it 100 times 10, regenerating his avatar over the course of many eons. Thoth also refers to the river of life, stating, I began this incarnation from eon to eon, where the river of life flows eternally onward. Remember how Jesus makes the same reference in John 7:38. Whoever believes in me, as the scripture said, rivers of living water shall flow from within. The more we read the Emerald Tablets, we realize readily that the connection between Thoth and Jesus is there. I believe that this is very possible, and they are one in the same. That's my own hypothesis. But in the time yet unborn will I rise again, Thoth says, mighty and potent, requiring an accounting of those left behind me. Another interesting statement made by Thoth many thousands of years before Jesus tells his disciples that he will rise again. It's interesting that Jesus says the same thing in Mark 9:31. If ye have falsely betrayed my teaching, for I shall cast ye down from your high estate into darkness of the caves from whence ye came. Betray not my secrets to the men of the north, to the men of the south, lest my curse fall upon ye. Remember and heed my words, for surely I will return again, and require of thee that which ye guard. I, even from beyond time, from beyond death will I return, rewarding or punishing as ye have requited your trust. In the biblical text of John 14:20, Jesus declares to his followers, I go away and come again unto you. Tell no one, the Son of Man be risen again. Now, here's interesting. Jesus calls himself numerous times the Son of Man in the biblical text. What does Thoth call himself in the Emerald Tablets? He calls himself the Son of Atlantis, and he also calls himself the Son of Man many, many times. Interesting. They both call themselves Son of Man. Thoth says, for surely I will come again, betray not my secrets. The Bible also teaches of a judgment day. Everyone, the still living and resurrected dead, will face God's judgment. Even those who profess Christianity will find judgment through the deeds they have done in life. According to Matthew 7:21 through 23 and Corinthians 5:10, those who have lived righteous lives will be granted eternal life. Those who have lived evil lives will be condemned to eternal punishment. This record appears in several biblical passages, including Matthew 5:29 through 30, 25 through 31 through 25, 31 through 46, and Mark 9:43 through 48. Again, these statements are very reminiscent of the same things stated by Thoth over 36,000 years ago. Did Jesus Christ, sometimes referred to as Yeshua, teach reincarnation? The answer is yes, he taught reincarnation. Additionally, reincarnation appears in the Old Testament. Read the last words of the Old Testament in the book of Malachi. Behold, I will send you Elijah the prophet before coming of the great and dreadful day of the Lord. He shall turn the heart of the fathers to the children, and the heart of the children to their fathers, lest I come and smite the earth with a curse. Here God is speaking through Malachi. That's Malachi 4:5 through 6. He was a famous prophet, often quoted by great leaders throughout history, including U.S. presidents, Donald Trump and many others, and actually saying Elijah is going to come again. Now we find that Jesus making the same statement. In the book of Matthew, Jesus says, among them that are born of women, that there hath not risen a greater than John the Baptist, notwithstanding, he that is the least in the kingdom of heaven is greater than he. Matthew 11:11. We're talking about a person who's coming, who's here, dies in some form or way, and it comes back again within the same time frame as a different person, still having the same attributes. We're talking about a form of reincarnation, or are they just changing bodies like Thoth says in the Emerald Tablets? Then he says, and if ye will receive it, this is Elias, which was for to come, Matthew 11:14, meaning his coming was prophesied. Therefore, Jesus said he came. They did with him what they could, and so they will have to do me. And we're talking about the fact that this guy came and he came back again. And Jesus is saying the same thing's going to happen to me. I'm going to get killed and then I'm going to come back again. We just going to keep coming. How are they coming back? What are they coming? How are they doing this? Could it be some form of technology that we're not familiar with? Spiritual technology? Could it be that they are really using what Thoth talked about in the Emerald Tablets? We know that Jesus was teaching reincarnation nonstop in the Gospel of the Holy 12, and also in the biblical text. When you really analyze what he's been saying, he's talking about coming back over and over again in the third dimension, in a body. Scriptures concerning the coming again of Elijah flow so prominently through the Bible that anyone can accept the fact that they appear within the context of an already established canon. If reincarnation is so important, why is it not taught in the West? Some religious leaders have attempted to control people using fear tactics by saying, you know, if you don't do what I tell you to do, you're going to go to hell, which we know is added to the Bible by the Catholic Church. I think the early church fathers feared that if people understood reincarnation, they wouldn't go to church, but would just have a hand at the Father and say, well, I'll go into my next life. All right. People will be like, hey, you know, I messed up here. Let me start fresh again. The Apostle Paul teaches the Corinthians, we know that when this earthly tent we live in is taken down, we're talking about the avatar body, right? That is when we die and leave this earthly body. We will have a house in heaven, an eternal body made for us by God himself and not by human hands. We grow weary in our present bodies, and we long to put our heavenly bodies on like new clothing. This is biblical text I'm reading. For we will put on heavenly bodies. We will not be spirits without bodies. This is the Bible. We will not be spirits without bodies. We're talking about physical bodies. We're talking about physical form. People saying, oh, we're going to this place and it's going to be, no, you're coming back in a body, a physical body. While we live in these earthly bodies, we groan It is not that we want to die and get rid of these bodies that clothe us. Rather, we want to put on our new bodies so that these dying bodies will be swallowed up by life. 2 Corinthians 5:1. There's more teaching of reincarnation in the biblical text than anything. The idea that John had been Elias, so John had been two different people within a certain period of time. he was one person died, he came back as another person. And that the prophets could relive again on earth is to be found in many passages of the New Testament, but is most notably quoted in Matthew 16:13 through 17, Luke 9:7 through 9, and Matthew 17:10 through 13. If this is an erroneous belief, Jesus would have combated it and did many others. But from this, he gave complete sanction and authority by making it a basic principle of necessary condition, by adding, no one may reach the kingdom of God if he is not born again, in John 3:3. Furthermore, insisting such when he added in John 3:7, do not be surprised when I say it is necessary to be born again. Born again. Where does the term matrix come from? The term matrix comes from the Bible. That comes from the biblical text. Matter of fact, let me pull it up right quick. Exodus 13:12, thou shalt set apart unto the Lord all that openeth the matrix, and every firstling that cometh of a beast which thou hast. The male shall be the Lord's. All right, Exodus 13:15. Here goes another one. Exodus 34:19. All that openeth the matrix is mine, every firstling among thy cattle, whether ox or sheep, that is the male. Here's an interesting verse though. Numbers 3:12, and I behold, I have taken the Levites from among the children of Israel instead of all the firstborn that openeth the matrix. Among the children of Israel, therefore the Levites shall be mine. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. The matrix is all throughout the Bible. The Bible also says in here that you must be born through the matrix because the matrix is a womb. What are we talking about? We're talking about being born again, which you've heard me talk about many, many times. You must be born again. And it ain't becoming born again by praying to some exterior deity and begging him to forgive you of your sins. It comes through raising your level of consciousness to a higher level and realizing that you've grown consciously to another level and looking back on your previous level and saying, wow, I've been born again. And you'll be born again many, many times within this same lifetime, as I always say. Keeper of the great temple, link between the children of light. Now, Thought Me is actually Ea Enki. That's his father. Thought Me is the Sumerian god Enki. Also in John 12:36 records the words of Jesus, believe in the light that you might be the children of light. Why is he saying the same exact thing from the Emerald Tablets? Slightly differently, but the same exact meaning, the same exact thing. It's because either Thoth is, Jesus and Thoth are the same person, or Jesus is some way a bloodline, because we know of this virgin birth, like I said earlier, to establish a bloodline. Mary then gives a virgin birth. The grandmother gives a virgin birth. The grandmother was a virgin birth. Then Mary comes, right? Then Jesus is now a virgin birth. What is this bloodline being established and why? Is someone using the same technique that Isis used in the Sumerian tablets to create a bloodline so that Yeshua could come through that specific line? Is this an experimental way of coming back as a human being through the womb instead of becoming a fully formed grown man every time you reincarnate? Because those claim to have the power to reincarnate at will. Did he utilize a particular technique to come through the womb of a woman, a human, and then regain all of his memories and grow up more potent and more powerful? Or was Jesus simply a student of Thoth the Atlantean priest king of his ancient mystery schools when he went to Egypt to learn the Egyptian mysteries, according to the Gospels of the Holy 12? It's a conundrum. It's either one of the two, because the Emerald Tablets is 36,000 years old, and then Jesus is saying all the stuff that's being said in here over and over again. Which came first, the chicken or the egg? That's my question. Let's take a look at this Yahweh guy. It's Jehovah. So they pray to Jehovah. This is their main God, Jehovah. That's the name of their religion, Jehovah Witness, right? Jehovah's Witness. Jehovah's apostrophe S, Jehovah's Witness is the name of their religion. Let's take a look at who this guy really, really is. And I do mean guy. I mean man. Jehovah is not a God that created universes and planets and all this kind of stuff. So if you look at the word Yahweh, which as we know is Enlil in the modern day Bible, according to the Sumerian tablets, which predates the Bible by thousands of years, it comes from the word Yahu, which is Assyrian, and Yahweh in German is Jehovah. And so they took the German version of Yahweh. And how do I know this? Because during the World War, the Jehovah's Witnesses were in full support of Nazi Germany. They even wrote in their personal, they have a book that the elders books, they have a book that they read that they go by. It's like the Elders Bible. And in there, they were making appeasements for Germany and saying and hoping that their mission goes right, and they blessed them with the love of God and everything else on what they were doing over there in Nazi Germany. And so they took the German version of Yahweh, which is Jehovah. So Jehovah, or actually really is Jehovah, is really what it is, Jehovah, because the J really is it sounds a Y sound. But regardless, it became Jehovah in America. And so Jehovah is actually Enlil. So the power of Yahu in Akkadian, by the time of the return of the Babylonian exiles in the 530s BC, Yahweh was treated as a deity name in its own right. Akkadian grammar was apparently forgotten by those in Israel, and Yahweh is actually mistranslated in the English Hebrew scriptures as Lord. The word Lord is coming from a mistranslated word of Yahweh, which is actually a person, not a God. You see how this whole thing is screwed up for the Christians and the Jehovah's Witnesses? The whole thing is convoluted garbage. So you see here, to write this image, Hebrew reads from right to left. And transliterated into English, it's Yahweh or Yahweh, Jehovah. But you see the J is actually supposed to be silent. In America, we've already incorporated the sound of the J, so we call it Jehovah, but it's really Jehovah. So now, according to the Sumerian text, Enki, also known as Satan, so his brother, he's not really Satan, but his brother is really Satan. Enlil is really Satan, but Enlil didn't want to scare the people and make them think he was the evil one. So what he started doing was blaming everything on his brother Enki. And he even though Enlil was Satan, the Lord of Eden, he started saying, no, he's my brother. He's the one that's actually the evil one. He's Satan, not me. So he can keep the people worshiping him. But according to Sumerian text, Enki, aka Satan, created man and animals. He didn't create man and animals in the Sumerian tablets. That's a little bit of I should have said something like he used genetic techniques to modify existing animals and hominids on this planet. Okay, he didn't make anything from scratch. Nothing was made from scratch here. His brother Enlil created the earth and sky. Now, he didn't create the earth and sky, and this is the part of the mythological version. But what he did was he utilized his understanding of seed planting, and he utilized his understanding of weather patterns and weather control. It's talked about in the Sumerian tablets. He would control the weather and dry crops out amongst high multitudes of humans to make them starve to death. So this guy had the power over weather and everything. Okay, pretty interesting stuff. A rift came between them, so him and his brother started having a lot of arguments, kind of like Cain and Abel from the Bible, Esau and Jacob. And although Satan, aka Enki, was the eldest of the brothers, their father was a chief Sumer god. Their father was Anu. That's where you get the term Anunnaki. Their father's name was Anu. But eventually Yahweh would rule over both earth and its creation. And what happened there, if you look in the Sumerian pantheon, they ruled by a number system. Okay, they had a number system. And even though Enki's number was higher than his brother Enlil, for whatever reason, which is not clear, it never is really said why or how this happened. Maybe Enki relinquished the right to be the king of earth, but Enlil superseded him and became the king of the earth and ran the show here for quite some time. Each brother was considered an immortal, and therefore, if you wanted to hurt the other, you would not fight each other, as it would make no sense. So they wouldn't fight, because fighting each other would make no sense, because they had the technology to cure and heal each other. So what they would do is they would attack each other's things, like their land,
the people that they ruled over, the structures that they built, and so forth and so on. That's how they hurt each other. And their father got pissed off and said, look, you go to this side, you go over here. You guys stay away from each other and just do your own separate thing. But this is where Jehovah comes from. Jehovah is actually coming from the ancient Akkadian and Babylonian cuneiform tablets thousands of years prior to the existence of Jehovah's Witnesses. And the person that they're praying to, and I do mean person that they're praying to, is one of the most evil killing rulers of all time. He would kill humans for fun, okay? Later in the Akkadian version of the flood story, recorded in the Epic of Gilgamesh, which is a famous read, it's the true full story of Noah's Ark. Enlil, who's actually, like I said, Jehovah, actually causes the flood. He actually causes the flood in the cuneiform tablets, seeking to annihilate every living thing on earth because he got tired of the humans who were so overpopulated they were making too much noise. He actually says this in the tablets. The humans are making too much noise. I just want to kill them. They're disturbing my sleep. He would kill thousands of humans at a time just because they were too loud for him. This is who Jehovah's Witnesses are praying to. Where can you find out more about this guy? The Atrahasis. Okay, let's look at some of the things that Jehovah was doing on earth back in the day. Let's see what the Jehovah was doing. The Jehovah's Witness. Sometimes I go walking down the beach in Fort Lauderdale, and from time to time, and I walk the beach, and from time to time, there's zealots out there. You know, the people with the megaphones and everything else, and the Bible thumpers that are out there with the books trying to stop you to reel you in and try to get you to using dogma to try to get you to commit to their belief system, and so they can bring more money into that temple that they're part of. It's really come down to it. They don't realize that's what they're doing, but it's all about recruiting money. It's all about obtaining funding for the business. And so they're the grunt workers of the business. They don't really understand exactly what they're doing. They think that they're doing it for the greater good, but what they're doing is they're doing it for the pockets of somebody or some bodies at the very, very top. And so one day I was walking down the beach, and the Jehovah's Witnesses were out there, and the lady stops me. Usually I just continued. I said, not today, and I just keep walking. But this time I just stopped, right? This one particular time. And the lady starts asking me, have you accepted Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior and so forth and so on? I said, no. She said, why not? I said, because I'm already God. I'm already divine. Divine runs through every single atom inside of it, makes up my entire body. And my consciousness comes already from higher dimensions, which what you might call heaven. And the lady's eyes got all big and bugged out and everything. And so she still wants to sell me and everything. So she starts giving me her sales pitch for the Jehovah's Witness. And I said to her, I said, I don't want to interrupt you, ma'am. I don't want to be rude. But if you can answer a few questions about your religion, then I'll listen to everything you have to say. And so I said to her, when was the Watchtower Society formed? When was it formed? What year? What year was it formed? And she was like, what year was it formed? I said, yeah, what year was the Watchtower Society formed? The original one, before it got incorporated. She didn't know the answer. I said, wow, that was 1881. That was Zion's Watchtower Tract Society. And they were distributing these religious tracts, like you're handing out your information now, these watchtowers, the same exact thing, but in the 1800s. She was like, oh, wow, really? I said, yeah, you didn't know that, did you? But I said, how long have you been doing this? All my life, she said. She was born into that religion. I said, you've been into this your entire life and you didn't know that? She goes, no. I said, when did they formally incorporate? What year and what state? She goes, I'm sorry, I don't know that either. I said, wow. Well, that was in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and that was in 1884. And that's when the Watchtower Society actually formally incorporated. And I said, ma'am, you have to understand, you're out here preaching this to people and trying to get people to join your, religious system. And you don't really even fully, totally understand exactly what you're talking about because you haven't done any research to figure out exactly where the origins or the start of this come from. And that's just the beginning stages of it. I mean, the information that you guys are talking about is coming out of even more ancient texts. She was completely flabbergasted, didn't have any idea or answer or whatever. And, And it was just a shame to see that somebody is believing that what they're doing is going to lead them to complete immortality and complete salvation. And in true reality, it's just leading them into a dirty, dark dungeon, a consciousness prison. And so that's what we have to be careful of with these religious dogmas and people that become zealots. So let's take a look at this. She did know the name of Charles Taze Russell. So that was okay. At least she did know that. That's the guy who basically was the president of the Watchtower Society in 1884 to 1916. And he was the founder of the Bible student movement. A lot of the works that this guy did really became the foundation of Jehovah's Witnesses. He didn't create Jehovah's Witnesses. That's not really how it happened. But he created the foundation. And from that foundation, others came after him, and it evolved into the Jehovah's Witness sect. But Pastor Russell was an American Christian restorationist minister from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, the founder of what is now known as the Bible student movement after his death. And Jehovah's Witnesses and numerous independent Bible student groups developed from his base. They actually started from his work. His work catapulted a couple of different religions that popped out. A lot of them, the other ones, they kind of faded out, but Jehovah's Witnesses, they actually stuck. And the reason why they stuck is because they mastered how to indoctrinate people through fear. And those who maintained fellowship with the Watchtower Society after Russell's death adopted the name Jehovah's Witnesses in 1931. So Jehovah's Witness, that actual term, that name, that actual, religion, officially became that title and that name in 1931. Before then, it wasn't. But they're working off of the basis of this guy here, Charles Taze Russell. Now, what's interesting is they took the Bible and they rewrote it and edited it and flipped it around and remixed things around to suit their own benefit and their own needs and what they want to accomplish and what their agenda was. And so they call it the New World Transliteration or New World's Translation, depending on which book you have in your hand, of the Holy Scriptures. And the Witnesses have their own translation of the Bible. So they have completely edited this thing and moved words around and moved phrases around and changed things in and out. It doesn't match some of the original canonized versions of the Bible, which is not a big surprise because the Sinai Bible is different from the King James Bible and so forth and so on. The Ethiopian Bible is different from the other two. And so I guess these people said, look, everybody else did it. We're going to remix it too. Let's go ahead and remix this thing. So they remixed the Bible, right? Set it up to where it's a complete neuroscientific book, basically predicated on hitting people that are susceptible to fanaticism, reeling them in, and milking them dry for all of their energy and their money. And that's pretty much what they did. And so the New World Holy Translation of the Holy Scriptures is also referred to in the New Testament as the Christian Greek Scriptures, and they call the Old Testament the Hebrew Scriptures. They really did a lot of incredible tweaking of this book to get it to where they have it right now today. So what's their belief system, their fundamental belief systems? So this is the Jehovah's Witnesses Bible. Witnesses hold a number of traditional Christian views, but also many that are unique only to them. They affirm that God, aka Jehovah, and we're going to talk about who this Jehovah really is in a minute. We're going to get into Jehovah really deep. Is the Most High. Okay, so they're saying that Jehovah is the Most High. Jehovah is everything. Jehovah is God. He's the creator of everything, creator of the heavens and earth. Again, another attribution to a gender as well, by the way. They always call Jehovah a he, a him, a male. Okay, that's always a dead giveaway when somebody's calling a spiritual being by a gender. I don't want to be involved in it. Jesus Christ is God's agent. He's an agent for God. He's an agent, like Agent Smith in the Matrix. He's an agent now, through whom sinful humans. So you're sinful. You right away, you're already bad. You're bad immediately. You're born bad. Through which whom sinful humans can be reconciled to God.
By Compendium of the Emerald Tablets by Billy Carson.